G'day, guys. Another Sunday together or Saturday night in North America. Good to see you all, and South America. Good to see you all, and good to have such a crowd. I don't know how many actually, because currently YouTube is not transmitting to StreamYard how many people are viewing this. I've got no idea. It's actually still down as 0. And I know it's not the case, but YouTube is, it's just making my life a misery. I understand why, but, got really pissed off with them and literally threw in the can for goodies on a warpath with them. Yeah, they're not really making friends. Let's please hit the like button. I just quickly checked my emails. No message from Bart. Bart said he may be on one of the streams. I will keep on checking whether he pops in or not. He said he may join either this stream or the night stream. I don't know. Probably because it is really, the weather's not too bad out there. Things have sort of improved. And I think he may have decided, I'll go up and do some exercise, or I'll go on out and do some kayaking. So I suspect he won't be on this. He may be in the evening one, maybe around with a couple of beers. So we may see him later in the day, possibly. No promises, because he wasn't sure where he was going to be. But anyway, let's get on with it. Yes, as Lukey says, please hit the like button. Yeah, look, exactly. YouTube is T1 is Blinky. They are really, yes, they're checking my prostate on a daily basis. Yeah, yes. I told them it's fine, but yes, they are really ramming it down there. Yeah, look, I know it's crazy. You've got to have to go to the subscribe. I go to my subscribe and it doesn't even come up on my channel. That's how ridiculous it is. I'm the person who is actually hosting this live stream. And when I go to my subscribe one, it will not even come up in my stream. And then once the stream goes, it pops up in the YouTube thing. Oh, I've got a notification of my own, because I've put a notification to be given. Yeah. And, it's complaining to the AI. The AI just goes, apparently you are. Did you get the early worm? Got the reminder yesterday. Oh, look, it's just crazy. I mean, some people get the reminder a day before. Others don't get it at all. Others get it halfway in the stream, like last time. It's just all over the place. It's notification. I don't know what. I just think that YouTube, somehow they've modified their AIs to sort of promote the high advertisers. So the channels that actually do a lot of advertising, promotional, merchandise and stuff like that. And what happens is the AIs are just basically, depending on, from day to day, there are different people that are going to be putting stuff out. So even these promoters are not going to have a video every day. They may have a video a second day or whatever. And I suspect what's happening is on the days where there's less traffic, the AI is just going, oh yeah, we'll promote these extra ones. And on days that it's not, it prioritizes them and just ignores everyone else. And so there may be a certain amount of bandwidth of their back-end servers, and that may be an issue as well. That's a speculation on my part, and that's all it is, because we're not on the inside, so to speak. Anyway, just got notified. Yeah, exactly. Yes. What was this? MTHFR video. Did I see it? No, I haven't. As I said, I do sub to him, but he's okay. I don't agree with everything, but I haven't watched the latest video. I've actually been watching other types of videos. Actually, also a lot of music videos recently, just to chill out. Anyway, that's me. He said there was no proof on the disease association with 24 polymorphism of NTHFR. Look, this is the big confusion in the low carb, keto, paleo, these sort of communities. You'll get two groups of people. One group that is adamant that there is a problem, and they usually tend to be the naturopathic doctors. So he's right about that. They over-exaggerate the MTHFR issue within our community. It's not a big issue, and I'll explain why. On the other hand, you've got basically the veg-tarded and all that basically sort of say also it's not an issue. But when you look at studies, and I've actually shown them in the past, of vegans and vegetarians having very high homocysteine levels, like 29 for vegans and 17 or 19 for, and I've shown them in the past, both on Bart's stream and all. You guys have seen them. I'm not going to go Googling for them. But in terms of the, these people have very high homocysteine levels. So there's definitely an issue there, and it's a nutritional issue. That's what it is. If anybody goes back and checks my channel, I've done a very early video months ago, which was on the MTHFR. So it's the first one on MTHFR that I did. And I actually go through these SNPs, the two key ones. There's one which is a primary one, which I'm affected on. And what it does is, and let me just backtrack a bit on the homocysteine levels. You've got to be 7 or below. So below 7 is where the ideal. So as you can see, these people that are on a plant-based diet, Kitty's got something for us, on a plant-based diet tend to have a very, very high. God, I've got to show this. Yeah, fuck the information for a moment. Oh God, blinky poo. And he's even eating the flies. That's for the extra protein. God. Oh, thanks, Kitty. You've really owned that troll. Fantastic. Thank you. Made me laugh. Yes. So back to the serious stuff. So basically, it's not a joke that high levels of homocysteine are not very healthy for the body. But when you're on an ancestral diet, it's less of an issue. Why? People go back to that video that what I actually show a study, which is a randomized, it's a proper clinical study where they actually have dose-dependent riboflavin. So when they increase the riboflavin, the enzyme itself improves in the way it actually improves the enzymatic pathway, and that's the most important thing. And I think this is the thing that most people in the low carb community in general are unaware of. Most doctors are unaware of that sufficient riboflavin will basically restore the normal levels of this enzyme to basically, recycle homocysteine back into methionine, So that is missed completely out there. And who are the people that are getting sufficient riboflavin? Well, it's the people eating the animal products. Meat is high in B2 riboflavin. All dairy products are high. This is a reason why vegetarians are lower, because they get some dairy in their diet. They don't get sufficient dairy, but they still, especially nowadays, but in the past they used to. And that dairy basically provides them with sufficient riboflavin to support this pathway. the vegans get none of the animal products, so they're not getting it from the meat. They're not getting it from that. They're probably unaware, so they're not supplementing, and that's why their homocysteine levels are always found to be very high. So if you're on a plant-based diet, yes, it is a big problem. On an animal-based diet, I'd have to agree with him. It's not a problem. But he doesn't know the reason why. And the reason why is because the riboflavin restores the actual enzyme back to normal levels. Simple as that. So anyway, so that is the point. And if people want to go, let me just find that exact. God, stop that. Just a bit of a problem. My computer. Come on, don't freeze on me. Be nice. Actually, it's 6 months ago. Oops. And that's pretty much the methylation part 1 back in June the 4th. So it's about 6 months ago, pretty much. And that's the one that I've got, actually, which is the worst one. And there's the study. There's your riboflavin. So there's your taking riboflavin, just the homocysteine levels just fall down completely. And there's the actual proof. It's dose dependent. You increase the amount of riboflavin, you reduce homocysteine further down. With riboflavin, 12 weeks intervention, homocysteine dropped dramatically. So the information's there. It's just people are unaware of it, completely unaware of it, because people talk. Everybody copies each other and just talk the same shit, just put a different spin. People are just too lazy to do research. That's pretty much it, because they're more involved in selling products and doing other things. Anyway, I'm not criticizing him. I think that he's one of the better ones on the internet. He's got some good information. I've learned a few things from him, so don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I think that he's missed the importance of riboflavin in the animal-based diet that actually is dealing with this. And he's subscribing it to the animal diet only, which is partially true, but it's the component in it which makes the difference. You could supplement and fix that problem as well. If you're a vegan, you could take a B complex. Or you could basically, anyway, we'll move on. G'day, Lukey. Good to see you, mate. Good morning to you as well, T2. Yes, please hit that like. Thanks, Fapnado. Yes, you should always be critical, even of me and Bart. We're not gods. We are mortal humans that are just or can be also prone to error. The difference is we're less likely because we follow an empirical principle. So we don't speculate about things. And if I've got an opinion about something, based on the research that I've done. I'll give you that opinion, but I won't tell you that it's, yep, I can hang my hat on it. You don't have time to debunk me. Thanks, mate. Nice one. G'day, Dave. Good to see you, mate. How are things in beautiful Barcelona? And Shell's here as well. Nice to see you, Shell. Good to see you, Tracy, as well. We'll just cycle through these things. Good to see you, Necro Kitty. And thank you for the laughs. I've got a reminder 30 minutes here. It's a miracle, yes. YouTube is more like a hell for some people and a miracle for others. G'day, how's it going? Good to see you here. And quickly move on. Zakia, oh, hold on. I just dropped that out. I want to warn you guys that if you ever have an emergency, you will be physically forced to get a COVID test. Is it that bad in America? Do they give you a prostate check as well if you're a male? God. Oh, that's not a priority. You can die from cancer, anything else, as long as you don't die from COVID. Yes. The frog. Yes, very appropriate. We won't even go into that. Any suggestions of a quick detox from a commercial ice cream consumption that has triggered a massive ENT inflammatory response? Get off the ice cream, off the sugar. That's all I can say. Look, the only two things that actually help with detox, sulfurs and stuff like that. Your liver and kidneys do all the actual detoxing. What do you need to support those? Well, two important ingredients are taurine, especially when you're over 50, and choline, depending on how much you're getting from the diet or whether you've got a genetic reason. Those two are the big players in keeping the liver healthy. Even the fibrotic sort of elements that actually can grow in organs, including the heart and everywhere else, taurine can break those fibrotic, fibrous type stuff down. And it does it in the brain with beta amyloid as well. Keep you from going cuckoo. So, yes. But why are you following my bad example and eating shitloads of ice cream? Oh, God. See what happens, Blinky? You encourage them to take after my bad habits. I blame you. I don't blame Tracy. I blame you. So Kia is, I just hit by and hit and run driver a few days ago, and I ended up in the trauma room, and they shoved the super long COVID test down my nose. And a bird like, oh, okay. Really? They just didn't even ask you. They just shoved it. God almighty. God, are they that? They could have asked. Did have been nice about it. Yeah, God, I don't know. They stripped me naked, held me down and shoved. You're kidding me. God almighty. That's just... that's really happened. They stripped you naked and just basically really badly manhandled or, nurse handled you. God, these people are just, starting to lose the plot, basically. It's a respiratory infection. Yes, the infection isn't. It's definitely not a 1918. I've got a theory behind it. I've actually looked at some recent research which actually shows that people that have had the MMR vaccine are actually protected, because some of the actual protein structures are very similar. So the immune system is able to respond quicker with an immune response and deal with it much faster. And it may be the reason why a lot of the young people aren't being, infected severely or have any real issues. It's very interesting in that regard, and why it's affecting older people more than younger people. But doing that sort of stuff is just, God Almighty, that's just wrong. God, yeah, I would basically, yeah, I don't know what your finances are, and I know the US, unless you got money, it's very hard to get justice in the US, unfortunately. At least in Australia, you can actually take them to lower courts and force them into, to recompense you somehow. But yeah, it's a bit harder in some countries. So yeah, I don't know what your options are. You may have to ask somebody that may know more about it. And I don't know what the rules and laws and, what exactly, but I suspect you guys having a Bill of Rights, I presume you're in the US, you would think that these would be some major violations of that. So, bloody hell, that's just crazy stuff. Even if it was a pandemic, you don't treat people like that. Simple, that's just basically, wrong. Anyway, let's move on. We've got plenty to go. And Harry, what do you think about the argument of paleo folk that eggs were seasonal food for hunter-gatherers, therefore regular egg consumption isn't realistic? That's probably a bit of truth in that. There was probably more seasonal, a lot of things. But at the end of the day, we've been consuming all sorts of different eggs for a very long time, and it doesn't cause us any problems. If we look at Asia, for instance, every single meal there's an egg in there. So the Asians traditionally used to have, egg nearly with every single meal on a daily basis. So it's only in the modern era, when they incorporated, more seed oils and refined sugars, that their health really went bad. So even in historical evidence, there's no evidence. Just because a food you have occasionally, if you've had it over millions and millions and millions, thousands and thousands of years, you would have acquired some level of adaptation. So whether you're having it more often or not an issue. Remember that other guy, 25 eggs a day for at least 5 decades, if not more, and outlived his parents and was in very, very good health and was consuming shitloads of eggs, which are very high in PUFA, and yeah, it was fine. And came from a country, also his origins were from the British Isles, so you can't say he came from a tropical area where he would have special genetics, or from Africa, eating ostrich eggs or whatever, so when you look at the science, any clinical case studies or whatever, there's no evidence there whatsoever. So their argument is just as dodgy as many other arguments. That's why I abandoned the paleo community a while ago, for that exact reason. Their hostility towards eggs and their hostility towards dairy. Yes, I can understand if somebody has a lactose intolerant issue or has leaky gut or stuff like that. Yes. But in that case, a lot of different proteins from all sorts of things can react badly, even from meat, So, yeah, If you've got leaky gut, you're gonna get inflammation from all sorts of proteins. And if your stomach isn't breaking them down and denaturing those things with sufficient acidity, you will get some reactivity in your body. How much depends on what the state of your gut is or your stomach. So it's not an argument. It's again this sort of reductionist. Oh, it doesn't fit the ancestral profile. Oh, fuck off. Just crap. We've had thousands of years of adaptation to these animal foods, and for the majority of us, it doesn't cause any problems whatsoever in that regard. So, nah, crap. I would not worry about it. Unless they can show me a study that can actually prove otherwise, which they can't, they've got no argument. And most of the other stuff out there is stronger arguments than what they have to say. I always say, like Bart, show me a 1. If you can't show me a 1, goodbye. You've got no argument. Well, he does eat flies. It is an animal-based diet, very high in protein, might I add, insects. Yeah, exactly. It's just ridiculous. It's unacceptable. It's wrong. Simple as that. You don't treat people like that. That's just, God, on so many levels, it's wrong. They did what? God almighty. There are actually safer methods of actually checking people's insides that are less invasive and less chemically based. But again, it's all about, they get actually kickbacks from all this sort of stuff when they use this technology or systems or whatever. They actually get payments for those sort of things. That's the thing. And it goes against the actual physician. His name gets put in, or her name gets put in the actual list and gets a tick, and they will get additional remuneration. It's or the hospital has an agreement with a company to use these sort of products. Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah. At least in Australia, it's not as bad as that. For now, at least. God, that just seems really over the top. Yeah, we live in very strange times. Be honest. Be honest. We know you like a bit of Spanish fly, don't you? We know you love a bit of Spanish fly. Be honest. He was owned by Kitty. Big time. Pretty much said, get your vitamins. What did he say? Pretty much said, get your vitamins. His issue was most of the lines selling snake oil, which some of these gene tests, yeah, it's probably right. Some of them are, pretty much, because there's actually research out there that actually shows. Look, I think genetic tests are useful. They do show predispositions and stuff like that, and potential pathways that need to be supported. But the funny thing is, once you actually start looking down these pathways, like I do, the choline pathway, all these different pathways, some of the fibrotic or fibrinogen type of stuff and all that. And once I found out that I had all these gene issues, and then I looked at what foods will actually break down these fibrinogens, like retinol, like taurine, all these. Then I was able to relate with research that sort of stuff back to animal products. And I realized why I was getting better on animal products. So I made the connection. So for me, it was a very interesting thing. For the majority of people that are basically probably don't have the capacity to research or understand a lot of this sort of stuff, for them it may be next to useless, and it may actually make them panicky or worry about things that they don't really have to worry if they're on an ancestral diet. So yeah, there's probably some truth. I'd have to agree with him along those lines. I don't know exactly what he said, but if he said that, a lot of these tests are pushed, there is a commercial interest behind them in that regard. And most people who can't research or understand, because just because you've got a gene, it can be silenced by eating certain things, and it's not a non-issue. So yeah, he's probably right about that side of things. But I don't know exactly everything that he said, so I can't in one way or another say, yep, I completely agree with him or not. But I wouldn't disagree with some of the premise in that regard. I bet you have. I wouldn't be surprised. Apart from Harry, Bart, and Pim, who else do you guys like to follow? I find Paul Mason's stuff really excellent. Yeah, Paul Mason's pretty good. I do have to say that I do enjoy his stuff in that regard. And he's very much an empiricist. When you push him on certain... Ben Bickman is another guy that I like. If you push him, he tends to basically say, well, if we don't have enough science, unless he's got something that he can show you. I have found him and Ben occasionally using a bit of epidemiology, which at least they actually do say it is associational. We don't have, we can't prove causation. At least they say that. But I tend to really steer away very much, like Bart, away from, associational data, because I just find that a lot of people that do a lot of this associational data massage and manipulate the figures, and when you look at the raw data, then you look at the stats. And I've actually done it a couple of times where I've gone through and calculated things, and it can take a while to work out what the hell are they mean. And sometimes I've even asked, Bart, I've flicked him something and I said, what do you think about this? And he'll have a comment about it. But actually, I did send him something else related to one of his recent videos, but he hasn't commented back. So he may have forgotten about it. Yeah, just remembered that. I better bring it up next time I speak to him. Yeah, so yeah, there are some good people out there in that regard. Look, there is some good research to believe in, that has been really done well in that. There's not a lot. That's true. There is not a lot of that. And you probably need people like me and Bart to basically explain. Bart's actually better than me on the statistics. I have to, I literally go back to the raw data and ignore the statistics, because I find it much easier just to look at the raw data and look at the percentages and all that and go, okay, when it comes to the statistics, sometimes these people just, I don't know what they do. In one case, I think Bart said even he wasn't sure what they actually meant, because their numbers you could use all these different numbers of the raw data, but you couldn't get what they were getting, that figure, the percentages or whatever, or the odds ratios. And you go, where did they get this number? I think, what's his name? Something Diamond. He's he's I can't remember whether he's brain surgeon or whatever. I forget his first name. The guy Diamond is his last name, and he actually showed one study. I think it was actually on statins, and he actually showed. He said he actually found, after searching for it, exactly the two numbers that they used to get the percentage. And he said, I don't know how they work this out from the raw data. It just doesn't make sense. That's it, David Diamond. I don't know how it makes sense, but basically they use these two numbers to get that percentage, that odds ratio. And no, it was a percentage. That's right. It was a percentage. He said that's how they worked it out, and he said it's just crazy. It's just basically, he's a PhD researcher in, I think neuroscience and stuff like that, or something to do with the brain in particular. And he actually said that it's just bullshit. These people are just making up shit, in that regard. So yeah, it's just crazy world we live in. And that's why sometimes, let alone the average person that's got no idea about all these shenanigans, looking at this, they'll look at that and they'll go, oh, this is too hard. And I'll just go, oh, let me look at the conclusions and what these guys say, and I'll agree with that. And depending on who you read, you'll end up agreeing with one thing, and then the next week you'll basically listen to somebody else and end up with another contradiction. And somehow people have found an ability with these associational studies to make sense or to balance their contradictions in their head. I don't know how they do it. It's just because they don't think, they just accept it. Blind faith, basically. What are your thoughts on why some people get these gene mutations? The reason for it is basically the type of foods we're having. It's a number of things. It's environmental or food related. Let me just give you an example of the B vitamin. The choline. There was a period in China where the Chinese had the Han Chinese period, where there was a lot of very limited animal products in their food supply. I can't remember. There was one of the emperors who was vegetarian or something along that line that really limited the food production, and that was for a very long period of time. What it did was it actually forced those people that could actually have a mutation in terms of to deal with homocysteine inflammation. They were actually able to generate more endogenous choline. So if you go to most other parts of the world, it's only a couple of percentage points, 1 or 2%, a couple of percentage points in most societies, sometimes a bit higher than that, close to 10. But in most cases, it's below 10% that people have the ability to produce endogenously inside their body, produce choline, which is very important. Now, because these people had a limited diet of this for a very long time, certain people started getting this mutation, and then it became more pronounced in the population, where today 76% of Han Chinese can produce endogenously choline. That's an advantage because choline can actually be converted. So you get methionine, you convert methionine through enzymatic pathways into choline, and then choline into basically a lot of these people have this as well because of limited animal products into basically folate. So, that's a big advantage, genetic, but that was because of limiting that food. Let's go to the British Isles. Just give me a sec. Somebody's knocking at the door. I just got a postal delivery courier company. Fuck it, on Sunday. I wasn't expecting them on Sunday. I was expecting them on Monday. Anyway, apparently they're working 7 days a week. Well, this company is anyway. Okay. I got my new projector. So I'm setting up. I'm moving my TV into my computer room. So that will be, I don't know whether, anyway, I may have to get some sort of concoction to put it on a wall mount. So that'll actually go in there. So I'll have TV, be able to probably just run music in the background or whatever. So that'll be basically it. And then I'm going to use the projector. So in the evenings, I've got a projector on the wall, so there's no blue light, on my skin or anything like that. So that's next level, sort of trying to reduce the blue light exposure. So yes, I've moved to, a change. They actually sent you had a free option of getting like a satellite type additional service and stuff like that. So they said that came in on Friday, didn't it? Yeah, Friday. So yeah, I came back. Actually, I did come back from, because we had a end of the year, the oldies, the ex-retirees. We had a few drinks and all that, and I had probably too many fucking drinks. So it was, I was tipsy. Literally went home, found the damn thing, ran back, nearly slipped, nearly bloody fell over because I was, let's say, a bit on the tipsy side. I got to the post office. I'd forgot my phone, and it was actually, luckily I had it against my PO box, and she knew me. So she basically said, "Oh, it's not against your PO box," because I said, "I can't remember the damn number." She said, "Without the number, I can't give it to you." So, and it was about 5 minutes before they, sort of shut down their systems and close. Crazy Friday. Yes. That will teach me to be on the terps. But that happens once a year when, yes, let's say I had too many 8% alcohol ciders. Oh, look, I usually do that because beer bloats me. It's too, and I don't want the grains from beer and all that, so I prefer, going for the cider. And they're quite nice, those two ciders. They were basically low sugar type ciders. They do have now, you can actually get low sugar ones, which is good because it's got less carbohydrate, more alcohol. That's why you get more alcohol. More bang for your bucks. Like one drink for two. Shell would love that. Yes. It's not, I don't poison my liver on a daily basis. Thank for that. Yeah, it's the occasional. I'm not going to argue with Harry. Yes. As most people know me, when I do argue, I'm a bit unrelenting. It's my nature. Yeah. If somebody's got a good argument, I'll actually agree. I'll say, yep, I'm wrong. Yeah, you've got a good argument. But if they don't have, I'm unrelenting. That's why possibly people fear me, because I am unrelenting and I've got so much information and so much detail and data that I can literally just keep on clobbering them over the head. I suspect that's why they don't want to debate me. We know what you follow. Be honest. Yeah, he's got his own sort of family things that he's dealing with at the moment, so his own issues. So he's actually not even doing stuff on his channel. So he's literally, I'm not saying he's quit YouTube, but he's basically just taken a bit of a break from it all just to deal with other things. So, so I've got no idea when. I've chatted with him in more recent times, and I have emailed him back and forward, so I know he's fine. He's still with a living. He's just dealing with his own issues. So hopefully we'll get him back next year. Oops, don't do that. Good. Yep, get that sun in. Yes, I'm enjoying the sun now in Tasmania. It's a bit more stronger and getting in some of that good stuff. Yes, we know, we all do. Okay, yeah. Is about, but currently just is dealing with his own issues and doesn't want to basically commit himself to anything, a more regular thing like he did before. So it's backfire. You know, you're always at risk when you try those sort of things, Tracy. Should know better by now. Nah. The best is vitamin D. Keep your vitamin D levels up, your status. That's the most important thing. That's what all the research has shown. And then take high doses. If you can get the active form, even better, because that's what they used in the research. But if you can't, at least take 50,000 IUs for the first couple of days, and then drop down to 25,000 IUs and just keep it up for some time until you saturate your body and get enough in there. Make sure you're on a species appropriate diet, which will give you all the sort of those additional vitamins and minerals to help convert things. Very important. So that's the sort of stuff. Then also, I noticed Deborah's talking about some of the Ruteri and stuff like that. Yep, they're useful as well as probiotics. They do fight pathogens, so they have their place. I actually don't use hydroxychloroquine, and the reason for that is because it does have side effects. I would stick to quinine, which is what I've actually said in the past. If you go back and check my previous videos and some of the comments, I did talk about using quinine and zinc together as a lozenge, and when you actually get it to help impede, and pretty much the vitamin D. Because remember, the vitamin D is also going to close those tight mucosal junctions, which basically means less can get in, which is another important thing. The other thing is iodinized salt can be very helpful as well by gargling, so you reduce the viral load. It's all about minimizing the viral load. Mask wearing doesn't actually protect you. All it does is actually reduce the viral load. So the benefit of a mask is really, if, for instance, there's a lot of virus in your locality, I'd probably, it's an option to reduce the viral load depending on your circumstance. If you're young, probably not less of an issue. If you're old and you potentially you're trying to minimize the amount of viral load coming in, that's an option. But the biggest problem is actually people who have got it, them releasing too much of a viral load. So it's not an easy option. But if you were a mask would be at the bottom of my list, unless it's compulsory in the area you are and you don't want to be basically ending up with a lot of fines. But that's the only reason I've got and would use them if I was told I had to, and I wouldn't end up with a fine or in court. No thanks. So even though I disagree, I'll put up with the garbage because they are, after all, elected by the majority of people out there, and the majority of people out there have been manipulated and tricked and believe that nonsense. So can't do much about it. Democracy is democracy. But when it comes to the sort of things that I would do, it's probably, good diet, keep your diet clean, you know, quinine and zinc. And let me just find that. Find the actual. Bear with me. Try to remember the damn name. What the hell's going on with this? Mm-hmm. No. Nearly found it. Okay, we've got the list. What's it? Doesn't have the. There. So, because this one does the same thing as it's an ionophore, so it actually allows a positive ion, which is what zinc is, to be transported into the cell, which normally wouldn't go in there because you don't want, to stop the transcription of other enzymes and other things in your cells. So that's why you don't want really, to shove a whole lot of zinc in there. Very important. But when you do get the thing and you know you've got it, then you do want to do that because you want to slow things down at the sort of the entry points, so to speak. And let me just share that. And so these are all the stuff that they actually sell, different brands and all that. This one probably you get more bang for your bucks. And at the same time, it's got, when you look at all this sort of stuff, vegetable cellulose, medium stearate, silica, cellulose, pretty much it's got no problematic fillers or other crap. So this one here, and it's a pretty good dose. Plus, yeah, it pretty much does mention sinus health formula. So yeah, so that's probably the one least problematic. It doesn't have any side effects. So you can combine that with a zinc lozenge or zinc chewable, but make sure that the zinc chewable does not have any citric acid, because citric acid will basically affect the absorption. So you basically want to take the zinc needs to be have no citric acid. Okay, so you combine the two with non-citric acid, so 0 citric acid, so to speak, and you should be fine in that regard in terms of stopping or slowing down the replication. That's the purpose of it, of an ionophore. So, yep. Okay, let's move on. Poking around. I see him on Bart's Discord occasionally. Yep. Yeah, as I said, I've chatted with him online. Like, in the StreamYard thing, we've like done like a private thing, and we've just sat and had a bit of a chat for a while. So yeah, so I still keep in contact with him. Don't get me wrong, and via emails as well through my private email account, not the one that I've got on YouTube. But at the same time, when he's sorted out whatever he needs to sort out, and he'll probably come back and be part of the program. Now, whether he'll be regular or occasional, no idea. He does have other priorities of his own that he wants to deal with, including with his, the band and other things like that. So, yeah. So there's a lot of things on his list. So I don't know exactly in what capacity he'll come back, or whether he'll come back at all. I can't guarantee anything. So, so that's how it is. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the big problems we've got big pharma, which is so dominant in medicine in the US and in many countries, not only in the US, but in many countries. And it's pretty much, we're told this is a standard of care and we're going to impose it on you, whether you fucking like it or not. So it's simple as that. What do you think are the least toxic plant foods and the most toxic plant? I'd say the most toxic plant food would be spinach. That they would, yeah, I'd put spinach there, rhubarb, those sort of high oxalate type, that's the sort of most toxic in terms of plants. The least toxic would probably be some of the yams would be, which is some of the tubers. Zucchini, again, would be probably one of the least egregious in that regard. Possibly even carrot, as long as you're not having a lot. It doesn't have a lot of calories. It doesn't have a lot of anti-nutrients to talk about in that regard. So, yeah, that'd be about it. There's not much in there. But I wouldn't basically go crazy on some of the stuff. It depends. I mean, carrots have got very little carbohydrate, not a lot of sugar. It's not very high, and their glycemic load is much lower. That means it takes much longer to get through. As long as you don't juice them, that's when they become like any fruit, they become very high in sugar rapidly into the system. So, yes. Seasonal pizza. It's probably one of Bart's. Oh, you're in California. Yeah. Oh, great state of California. Where the big tech companies are in bed with the actual pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. You're not going to get much justice there in that state. Bloody hell. You could do with a bit of manhandling, or, you'd probably enjoy it. I know Blinky would. We'll send him over there. Eating homemade erythritol yogurt right now. Sounds good. I hope you didn't. There's no acidophilus in that, or very little. Acidophilus basically does actually encourage you overeating. That's why they put it in, all the companies. Yes, it's one of those bacterial strains that encourage you to eat more. That's why all the big companies put it in all their foods, because of bastards. It's not naturally found in milk products, acidophilus. They just put it in there because they know it increases appetite. Fucking assholes. Yes, anything with acidophilus will increase your appetite, will encourage you to become fatter. Let's put it that way. Why do you think people get leaky gut, and how long do you think the healing tight junctions? Depends. Are they eating enough fat-soluble vitamins? Remember, your entire intestinal tract is full of collagen-type fibers, which is the actual basis of all the actual hairline structures, the villi and all that actually sit on. So what do you think you need to eat? I would say you would need to eat an animal-based diet. Also, to regulate those collagen-degrading enzymes, the matrix metalloproteinases, to fix and repair, which would be the important vitamins? Well, I would say vitamin D, retinol, which is the true animal form of vitamin A, and MK4. Simple. So, and as long as you're not putting foods down there that continue to do the damage, give it a few months, it should resolve itself. But if it's not resolving itself, it could be a couple of other related things. It could be certain pathogens in there, and that's where some of these bacteria, like the Reuteri bacteria, can fight those pathogens. The other thing is, I will do shortly, because it needs to be explained properly, about certain vitamins that can be combined to actually encourage the growth of certain bacteria that can actually do that work as well. So that is coming this month, with a lot of other shit about bacteria. And then next month I can get off the bloody bacteria stuff and get on to other issues once I've done I've killed it to death, so to speak. Anyway, I mean, remember, mucosal layers, even in your nose, your anus, your vagina or penis, depending on what you've got, and all the ears, there are mucosal layers. Well, vitamin D plays a big role in actually keeping those junctions tight so things don't get in. So that's another way. And most people are very deficient in vitamin D, unfortunately, nowadays. And they wonder why they have all these issues. Yes. How long would you dry fast? Not very long. I wouldn't dry fast. Probably the longest I'd dry fast would be probably 3 days. That's about it. I wouldn't dry fast any longer than that. That's not to say you can't dry fast longer. There's a difference between saying one thing and the other. Your body will still get metabolic water from fat that you've got stored, unless you're very lean, and you will know that because your body will basically be very upset with you and go, I need to eat anything in sight. And that's because basically the body knows best. But I would say, you probably notice when I actually give my answers, I give them in a holistic way, because I see the body in a holistic way. I don't see it as this reductionist nonsense. I've spoken before about metabolic water, how you get 10% more from fat compared to carbohydrates, where you lose about 56% approximately. So you dehydrate on carbohydrates, where you hydrate on fat. So when you're in a fasted state, you are hydrating from your own fat in that regard. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why you may not want to extend it too long. You may have if you're completely 100% really, really healthy, everything's working properly 100%, you could probably do it for longer. But if you're not, I definitely wouldn't do it over, let's say, like a month or, multiple weeks. And the reason for that is because you still need, you still need some motility to happen in order to detox. And so you can actually build up toxicity because your body's actually still breaking stuff down and detoxing with the liver and kidneys. And so you still need some motility in your digestive system to work. So long periods of time dry fasting is probably not a good thing because you probably will build up more toxins, which is probably less healthy. So that's the downside. It's not so much that the dry fasting is the problem. It's sort of that the body's doing other things that need to be cleared out as well. So it's more that, and nobody really has any research to tell you exactly. But up to a week, probably not a problem. Beyond that, I wouldn't take the risk for the simple fact that we don't have any real good research. And at the same time, you're building up toxins, which you probably want to be excreting anyway. So, but I would, the safest option, I would stick to 3 days, no more. But that's me. What you do with your body, I don't recommend people over that amount, is really up to you. But in that regard. And it's also whether you're supplementing certain things. If you're supplementing certain things, you may slow down certain biological processes. I do want to go into this later on. I've got a separate video, and I don't want to give too much away at this stage, but it has to do with uncoupling mitochondria. And so the uncoupling process, it's a very interesting other element at play so that a lot of people are unaware of. So anyway, let's move on. Blinky's got something. Oh, Blinky's come up with something. God, see what Blinky's come up with. Oh, God almighty. Talk about, how low can you go? I mean, that is low. It doesn't even rhyme properly. I mean, necro, the word necro doesn't really go with shit. It just doesn't rhyme properly, mate. Just doesn't rhyme properly. You can come up with something better than that, can't you? Kitty cat, some sort of cat angle thing, be a bit more creative, imaginative. T1. Good try, but piss poor. You don't get many laughs out of me. Now, if you had a kitty cat thing, you'd probably get a few laughs out of me. Yeah. You get the Roman. Now, where was I? Really should move. It's always Texas. It's become the ultimate woke state. Is that what you're telling me? Probably is. With the tech giants there pumping out all the woke propaganda. We're going to go, I'm going to hustle through this. My main issue with gene tests is identity disclosure. Yep, that can be a problem. Okay, they have. Well, there you go, guys. Nebula Genomics have got an anonymous testing with blockchain. There you go. So there are other options for you. Yeah, if you're too lean, definitely not. Could you provide info on grasshopper here? Got a raw DNA. Don't know how to interpret web links, etc. What I'll do is at the end of this live stream, I'll pin a number of. I won't do it immediately. I'll probably either do it tonight or maybe tomorrow when I get a chance, because I'm going to go out for a bit of a walk up the hill, and then come back, do a BART style, and then when I get back, I may, when I've got time, and provide you with some stuff where you can actually upload your raw data, and you can actually get certain things about methylation and certain things about certain genes and stuff like that. And I'll put some information that's not on there that actually can give you some conversion information that you have to pay for. But I'm aware of the genes that are important, so you can actually look them up. Anyway, so you expect something like that. If you do that, you'll fade away. All the feathers will. Yeah, exactly. Like wet fasting. That's pretty much it. 1 to 2. Yeah, I think the longest I've done dry fasting is 2 days. That was it. So it's equivalent to 4 days. So if you do a day and a half of dry fasting, that would be equivalent to 3 days, like 72 hour, where you reset a lot of things. So that's another option for people to do really quickly if they need to do something really quickly to get a reset of their immune system or whatever. So that's another option. Just stay indoors and away from people so you don't pick anything up, because your immune system will be slightly weak, in a weaker state, and make you more vulnerable, because you're breaking down and not building up. Just remember that. One paleo guy even says that dairy growth signals can lead to pour over. Just shit. Absolute shit. I've actually, in one of my earlier chats, which I did, what is it now? Nearly 2 years ago, which I did with Bart, or 1.5 years ago. 1.5 years ago. Anyway, whatever. That I did with Bart. And it's on this subject. And I go through all these sort of things. First of all, the hormones in the actual milk from the cow, our receptors are different. So, nope, it doesn't. They don't work in our body, which is one thing. IGF-1 can actually be transported via an amino acid, but in a very poor way. So it has negligible effect as well. You can actually have a couple of glasses of milk, and you'll get about 6 nanograms of estrogen, when men produce over 50,000, 53,000, women 630,000. So it's a drop in the bucket in the ocean, so to speak. And Messiah consuming 4.5 liters on average. So all these arguments are non-fucking issues, They're all myths, paleo myths, bullshit paleo myths, Cordain should have somebody, basically call him a friggin' fabricator of myths, because that's what he is, him and a few of the others in that sort of crowd. The reality is that the only people that have got an issue are people who have got real strong genetics in terms of lactose intolerance. Most people don't have lactose intolerance. A lot of people, even the ones that don't have the genes, can still cope to some extent. Look at Chinese, how many Chinese cope pretty well. So, yes, it's the lactose intolerant thing is a bit overblown as well in that regard. The more you look into it, the more you realize, and here we go. You may say, I'm a retard, but I'm not the only one. Nice one. It's the Vegetarian Brigade and the witch at the end of that merry rainbow. Oh, God. Fucking hell. He looks like an orange fluffer. And then below level, we've got the Richard Burgess lunatic that wants to kill babies. Then we've got, I'm big. Yeah, Mr. Steroid. And then some other clown. And then definitely the biggest British clown, Carby shit. He's shit asshole himself. Then we've got the Gregor doctor, who's never practiced and only talks shit. And he's Dr. Treadmill, as I call him. And then you've got basically the psychologist that basically would is more like, let's say her advice is less than therapeutic. Oh, God. What a crowd. What a crowd the vegans have as leaders, you know, I mean, God almighty. Yeah, he is British. He's actually connected to apparently some of the aristocracy as well. No wonder they've embraced a lot of this woke shit. If they continue along those lines, they probably won't stay in power. Republicanism will increase in Britain. You know, if they're one thing their old leaders did understand is not to be too woke. The current one are far too woke. He's not British, you can have him back. Nurse Trouble goes. Hey, he's over there, he can fucking stay there. Yeah, I know, he originated from Australia. I'm just, yeah. Fucking hell, this country produces some shit. Some good stuff as well, but some shit as well, like him. We've disowned him. Yep, that was earlier. Yep. Yes, we got Scotty in the room. Scotty's got a few fans. Nurse, God, disappointing. I mean, we haven't had anybody controlling those two trolls. Do you realise that? Oh, God, look. Hi, Nursey. Sucking up. God, desperado. I thought the other one was desperate. Bloody amateur hour. Well, that's what you come here for, didn't you? Oh, that's Blinky. He's into that sort of shit. I remember you saying something about some gene the Irish have, which is beneficial. That's basically the lactose persistent genes. They are nearly 100%. Yeah. But they do also have the other downside is they are very poor converters. That was the thing. Somebody actually, was it you that actually asked me about the genetics of certain populations, how they came about? Well, there you go. The Irish and a lot of the people in the Hebrides and the British parts of the British Isles that consumed more cod and got more cod liver into their diet, they tended to have higher retinol in their diet. So the beta carotene conversion was downregulated because they didn't need it, and could be potentially problematic in an environment where you've got low UV radiation for most of the year, but you're getting high retinol and less vitamin D. So that is why that was severely downregulated. And populations like in the Scandinavian parts, in Iceland and parts like that also have similar genetic mutations that basically means that they are poorer converters. I'm sort of an average converter, so I've got a reduction of 32%, I think it is. Most people are average converters because they had access to some plants. But there are large parts of the population, especially in Europe, that are poor converters. That's why, Mick the Orange Vegan goes orangey. That's his new name now, Mick the Orange Vegan. As well with K2, most online info just really describes its calcium function, and does also K1 like blood clots or elsewhere and all that. Yeah, it's just crap on crap and all that. We've actually got a new. I'll do it. I might get a chance to do it tonight. I'll see. There's a K2 thing. It is a rat study, but it is in a mammalian, and a lot of these K things in mammals. But it's really interesting. It really basically gives credence to what I've been saying for a long time ago, that MK4 is which is the animal form in all mammals, is the most important. And it also clears up some issues where a lot of people have been talking about certain pathways that are important. Well, what they did was they knocked out those pathways in the mouse and it still worked. And that was really fucking interesting because it actually just debunked some of the thinking out there. So I'll see if I get a chance tonight. I may just do a quick little 5-10 minute video. I did manage to do a 5-minute video last night. That was actually, that was difficult for me. You should know that. So I can't guarantee that this one will be 5 minutes, but we'll try keeping it small. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah. You can relate to that. But it does help. I mean, I've actually noticed with sort of, when you're looking at the close to the eye, that where you notice most of the wrinkles. So you can't see wrinkles there anymore. But, from compared to when I was in my mid-40s, about 10 years ago, I had more wrinkles in that location where, now I don't know whether it's the MK4 or whether it's also the niacin as well, or whether it's a combination of the two, because I've never controlled for it, so, but it's interesting that basically, because most people at 54 at my age, even younger, I know many of my friends that are younger that have got far more wrinkles in those sort of locations, especially in in that part of the eye close to that area. So yeah, but I'm not sure which one of the two. And I suspect retinol plays a role as well, consuming cod liver oil. But I still really can't yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's a combination of all these animal foods and the nutrient density in them and stuff like that, and some of the yeah, yeah. But I'm not sure, to be honest. Left nut. That's a big nut. Great live stream. Big fan. Keep up the good work. Thanks, mate. At least I got a laugh out of that. Packages. I just got a Amazon. Yeah. It's not a usual thing for Tasmania, but well, just the way it goes. How much sugar the body needs for the cells and only sugar burners? Nobody knows. We've never really done. Your body, requires some sugar for the brain, some sugar for the red blood cells. There are a couple. There's the glycosylation of proteins that requires some level of sugar. Every single cell has sort of like a pericellular matrix, and on top of that, those protein structures have like a bit of sugar on them. Then you've got around the actual cells themselves, they've got all these sugar molecules as well. So for signaling purposes between cells. So there is how much is required. The reality is, if you don't consume at all sugar, like the Inuit, your body will produce it through gluconeogenesis, demand driven. So I don't really care. It's a non-issue for me. What does it matter how much the body needs or whatever? It can produce it through gluconeogenesis as much as you need. And your physical activity also plays a role. So if you're more active, less sedentary, your body's going to produce more. If you're bigger sized, you have to, so your size matters. There's so many parameters. Your muscle density compared to somebody who's leaner, who's got smaller muscles. There's who knows, how many. Nobody's really. There's no, everybody's got estimates, but can I point to one specific study where they actually literally, probed a person thoroughly and accounted for everything? No. If you know about a study that they've actually, not like radioactive, were able to basically measure and detect every single sugar molecule moving through the body, and they accurately measured it, which I haven't come across. I would really be interested in seeing it, but yeah. Depends on the bird you're talking about. Okay. Oh, so that's what it is. It's Christmas, you muppet. Hey, I'm a pleasant muppet. Don't you forget it. Yeah, it probably is, the Christmas thing. Yeah. I've got my Christmas present. My new projector. It'd be pretty much a very strong animal-based, and in terms of plants, it would basically be very low glycemic plants. You have very little access to any other plants. Sugar and stuff like that came in later in the much recent times through the trade with the Americas. Spices came through in the Middle Ages. So you guys didn't really have much access to spices. Probably the only spices you had access would be things like rosemary, dill, rosemary, oregano, depending on how you want to call it. these would be the sort of those sort of types of herbs that would be available in the population, and it would be very meat heavy, the diet. There wouldn't be as much egg consumption. It'd be much lower in egg consumption. It'd be much higher in dairy products, raw dairy. Yeah, so that would be pretty much meat, raw dairies, some of these herbal type plants and all that, which would be pretty much it. Most other things like spinach and all that, they are later comers, so that wouldn't be part of your diet. Yeah, it's pretty much that would have been, so there would have been things like blood sausage. I've actually, because in 2006 I was in Germany, so I actually tried a number of these traditional German sausages and meat products and pork. Pork is very popular as well in Germany, Austria, and into Hungary as well. The Hungarians in particular love pork. And traditionally, you Germans consumed a lot of pork rather than beef. Like the Greeks, you consumed far more pork. You are known for being big pork consumers. Today, the only people that actually have the old pork traditions in Germany are more the East Germans rather than the West Germans, who have adopted more of a beef-based diet or meat. And it's probably the one reason why your skin tones between East Germans and West Germans is slightly different, even though it's only a couple of generations, because of eating different types of animal foods can have that effect. Anyway, there you go. You got more information than normal. That's just another insult. I'm just going to ignore it and move on. Sausages and beer. What else? That as well. That's one way. Yeah, sauerkraut, those sort of things, that would be, fermented foods and stuff like that. Yep. Oops. Ah, shit. You know what happened? StreamYard decided to actually rotate forward, and I lost my spot. Okay. Anyway, I have lost my spot, so if I've lost questions and bad luck, shit happens, blame StreamYard for it. G'day, I'm Cornell. Good to see you, mate. YouTube loves you, does it? Oh, you fucking YouTube pet. You fucking YouTube pet. Sucking up to them, aren't you? Damn. I'm doing it wrong, aren't I? Drive fasting before water fast could allow me to shorten my... Yeah, look. So, some people do different things in that regard. But Tracy, just, unless you've got a bit of weight to lose and all that, don't overdo the sort of the fasting stuff. Can be a bit negative on your thyroid if you overdo it. But then, don't forget selenium does push up reduces the reverse T3. So all sorts of biohacks. There's another one in terms of magnesium. I'll get into it at a later stage. Anyway. Practice makes perfect. It does. That's what I used to tell myself when I was a young lad. Practice makes perfect. In for a pound. In for a penny. God, you guys are extremists. Fasting extremist. John Lemon. Oh, God almighty. Yep, he's an orange fluffer. I suspect Mick the orange vegan. Exactly. Yeah, all cheeses are fine. Just yeah. The only thing that I actually look at is if they've over, let's say they've put like a lot of acidophilus in. So with the strains, do not buy yogurt or cheese products that have also got acidophilus, because acidophilus actually makes you more hungry. They put it in there to make you consume more dairy than you would normally consume. So they've found a way of making dairy addictive. So we criticize dairy as being, we've got the Maasai and other populations traditionally consume dairy, but nowadays people literally have addictions to dairy, and they wonder why. Well, it's because all the food companies out there are putting acidophilus in their dairy products because it makes you more addicted to the product. And they're not only putting it in dairy products, they're also putting it in other products as well. I tell you, these characters are dodgy as dog shit, basically. So you really have to read the fine print of the labels to avoid a lot of these things. Yes. Anyway, exactly. Dr. Treadmill. Well, we've actually deported him back to the UK. That's what we've done, haven't we, Blinky? Yeah, pretty good. It is. We got very good laughs out of it, Cornell. Look, nurse, do not compute. Does not compute with the Australian. Yeah, they can keep him. We should basically strip him of his citizenship, as he can stay there forever. How much protein per pound of body weight getting roughly per day? Ugh. Got to better do the kilos first. If you are if you're really physically active, 2.2. This is for males, obviously. For women, it's about 80% of this. So 2.2. So let's say you're 70 kilos or 150. Okay, let me just do it in there. So somebody 70 kilos doing 2.2. That would be 154 in terms of pounds, and also in terms of grams is what we would basically be looking at. Okay, so which makes it easy for you guys. It's a 1-to-1 in a sense, 154, 154. But if you're consuming, you're doing this. Let's say you're not very physically active, then I'd be, and you're quite old, over 6, older, I'd be looking at about 1.76 at the top end and 1.5 at the bottom end. is what I'd be sort of looking, which would put it about, so somebody who's 154 pounds, which is 70 kilos, that would be at the bottom end, be 105. At the middle end, 120 odd grams of, and at the top end, it'd be about 150 if you were, you're pumping iron and, you're really trying to build up and stuff like that. And these are for people, especially over 50 and onwards. I'd be looking at that. Younger, you could probably get away with less slightly. Depends on your physical activity as well in that regard. There's also fasting that plays a role, and recycling of old organelles that can sort of reduce the requirements. So there's a lot of different things that can play a role in it. It's also what other things, what are your other macros? So these are sort of levels for people who are not consuming carbohydrates. If you're consuming carbohydrates, it radically changes those sort of numbers in a number of ways. So that's how I would see it. So 1.5 per kilo of body weight. That would be about 70, would be per pound. That would translate at the bottom end as 0.7, 0.7 at the bottom end per pound. And at the top end, just would be 1 for 1 at the top end, and the middle end, which was what did we say, 123.5, I think it was. This is rough, about 0.8. So think about 1, 0.8, and then 0.7. That doesn't mean you can't do higher than that. Okay, there are people that are doing per kilo of body weight up to 4 grams. So people can do far more in that regard. So it depends. So there's a lot of variations and all that. I've spoken about this before. Depends on your physical activity, what you're doing, trying to bulk up, So a lot of factors at play. Any thoughts on remedies for shoulder bursitis? Hot pack, 15 months into slowly looking at medicated diagnosis. No, I don't really know much about it. Just generally about shoulder injuries and stuff like that is basically from, if it's an actual injury, that is basically rest. But for that prolonged period of time, are there any deficiencies in your diet that could be playing a role as well? Look, I'll look into it and ask me next week. I'll look into it and see whether there's any real true therapeutics or any approaches, or there are specific pathways, both genetic and non-genetic pathways, that are influenced by different nutrients. I usually go and try to go to PubMed and try and find studies and try to find the esoteric stuff, not the general stuff. Most of the general stuff says, oh, take this tablet. And then you'll find probably 1 or 2 studies that won't tell you to take a tablet, but will actually tell you exactly, some 1950s or 1930s or 1960s study that actually gives you the real information where people have looked into it. So, yeah, these are sort of, obscure stuff that none of us really look at, but I do. So, yeah, in that regard. And hopefully I will get tonight in the Euro-Asia. There's a couple of people that have asked me questions from last week that I've actually found some research and all that. One of the issues was boron that came up in the conversation. I'll tell you guys just quickly. What it does is I think she was actually taking 6 milligrams. And I did say everybody should basically take these high doses, normalize their hormones, which is really good, especially for postmenopausal women. But then you need to come down to 3 milligrams and stay there. I think she had told me she was at 6 and she felt great. And I said, well, I was sort of telling her that I thought she should go a bit lower. But she didn't want to, because she was feeling at that time. And it was actually Christina. She's, I think, from memory, Dutch background. And I just said that, look, you need to come down. The thing that I've actually found, I've gone down a couple of other rabbit holes and I've found out boron is fine. It's not the boron that's causing the issue. When you've got a copper or magnesium deficiency, either one of those, what happens is when you're taking a higher dose of boron, it actually magnifies it. That means the symptoms that you would normally have from a deficiency would get magnified. So it's not the boron, because the boron actually plays an important role, both in bone mineralization and stuff like that. And ATP, magnesium plays a very important role in the bone as well. And so it could be due to this sort of issue. So it could be a deficiency there, an underlying deficiency that she's had for a while and she wasn't aware, but the boron brought it out. Because I'll give you an example. If you take one avocado, uno avocado, it's got 2 milligrams of. So if you had 2 avocados, like, 2 small avocados, like what Stephanie Keto person does, that'll give you about 4 milligrams. I'm just telling you to take 3 and add a bit of, the rest, you'll get about a milligram, if that, from some of the meats that most people that most people eat. Unless you're eating liver, that's when you actually will. I don't take boron that. Or you can do like I do. I take boron once every 3 days, so I get a milligram a day. And a bit from the meats and stuff, the animal foods that I eat, I get about 1.5. So, but as I said, you can have 2, avocados, but the difference is the avocados have got potassium and magnesium in there, and it's probably the thing where when you're taking a pure, in a pure sort of in a supplemental, you're not getting the other 2. And so if you've got an underlying sort of deficiency, then it will magnify it. So really interesting, that I found out about this. And it sort of shows that if you're taking boron and you're not getting avocado in there, at least you should get some organ meats in there. That's what it's showing. So very interesting. But it was a rabbit hole that I didn't go down and I was not aware of. So, So interesting new discovery. Or anyway, I discovered recently something and these people that talk about this, they talk about it in an indirect way. They're not focused on the boron side, they're focused on the deficiency side. Yeah. But it just brought it to the forefront, which is very interesting. So for the rest of you that do know about using boron to normalize, you go from high doses, you come down to the 3 and you stay at 3. Because once you've actually, with men, on the other hand, bringing down prolactin, which causes alopecia, all these sort of things, high estrogen in men. So it has its value, but it's a short-term interventions. I've always made that very clear. You should not be above 3 milligrams as a supplemental. And I've made that quite clear. So it wasn't as if I didn't make that quite clear. But at the same time, I missed this part. this nuanced part. I just completely missed it. I'm human after all. There you go. Most people out there that are promoting boron don't even know about it because, so it's an esoteric sort of thing. Yeah, everyone is. I occasionally do fast, but I don't constantly do fast. So I think people are far too obsessed with fasting. I enjoy food. I had ice cream yesterday. Just I keep it to one day a week, and that's the Saturday. Need to get the oxalates in. I'm oxalate deficient, so I need to get a bit more coffee in. Yeah, bloody hell, it is hard to feast. easy on dairy with a lot of acidophilus in there, but yeah, definitely hard. Bad luck. Yes. You should actually try and see whether there's a Brazilian company down there. There probably is. If you were to search far and wide. Why fast when you can eat whenever you feel hungry? Yes. Actually, most of the I'd have to agree with you, Cornell. Most of the time nowadays, I just eat when I'm hungry. So, yeah, I don't. Which tends to be one day it can be once a day, another day can be twice a day. Some days I just will have fluids, maybe a bit of a snack, and that's it. And other days I'll basically have 3 meals because I feel so ravenous. So, yeah. I just, pretty much try to eat when I'm hungry. Actually, you actually enjoy the food. It actually tastes better as well. I think Cornell would agree with me. It actually tastes better. The food. Same food, actually, yeah. With no carbs, obviously. Stem cells? Who's eating stem cells? Okay. People are getting a bit frisky in this place. Is that what stem cells do to you? Hey, not a license to get frisky. G'day, Dominic. Good to see you, mate. Just look at the characters that I have to put up with. Say no more. Say no more. And definitely say no more. Yes, she's been misled by the other 2 trolls. Sorry for all the questions, but aren't you engaging the random cycle with getting 100 grams of carbs from dairy? Depends on your physical activity. You could be, you may not be in that regard. So, and also the genetics of different people can be different. But if you're quite physically active, it's going to be less of an issue because the clearance is going to be quite good. If you've got big muscles, again, glycogen, not going to be an issue. So remember the Randall cycle, you have to basically be mixing macros and exceeding your caloric requirements. So if you're below that, it's not going to be an issue. So it depends. Like the Maasai, for instance, consume up to 4.5 liters of milk on average. But they very rarely engage the Randall cycle. One, because they're very muscular. So they take up a lot of those carbs very rapidly. And they're consuming it over a number of hours as well, slowly. So, and they're quite physical. They're moving around continuously, taking little breaks and little snacks here and there. But on average, that's what they consume. But if you were to basically line up 4 liters and just, start dousing them down one after the other, you probably would engage the Randall cycle under those circumstances. So it depends on how you're consuming it as well. There's the cultural dimension to it, that most people traditionally would have consumed it in a certain way, whether fermented or whatever, especially in Europe, like cheeses and stuff like that, or yogurts, which would have less sugar, or basically, so it depends in that regard. Lukey's gone wild. Do you see how I'm ignoring you? Nah, definitely not. Definitely not. There's never, as I say, there's never a wrong answer. It's always look, and also myself. I'm not perfect. I fuck up as well. I missed that thing about with the boron thing. One of those things. You can't cover everything or know about everything. It's just not humanly possible in that regard. And especially when people ask me about, certain conditions or ailments or genetics, which are very, extremely rare. I'll research them, don't get me wrong. I've looked into one. And that's a person asked me that, who's going to hopefully appear in the Eurasian one, and I've got all the research up for her, so I'll go through and explain to her some of the options, what she can do. Yeah. You mean the B vitamins and the choline to deal with and the taurine to deal with the toxicity that's going to hit your liver? Is that what you're telling me, Dom? Yes. Oh, thank you, Cornell, for apologising for me. Negative effects of ice cream experiments. Doing the right thing. My experiment was yesterday, and I actually only had about a third of the tub, and my mate Sean goes, "Oh, you didn't put as much," and then I left some of that, and I said, "Well, here's a spoon, you can have it, the rest of it." So, and he did, he scoffed it down and all that sort of stuff. So, yes. He leads me astray, my mate. Yes. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Good to see nephew. He sort of got hammered by Luke. Don't know why. Let your inner troll hang out. Oh, God. Red wine. Okay, one of those. It's a combo of things. We're all naughty now and then. At least this part of the crowd, we admit it and own it. Everybody else seems to basically, I'm not going to tell my subs what I do, while they're guzzling down all sorts of shit and then selling you products the next day. Oh, oops. Get onto that bald man and tell him to expedite things. Yes. Traditionally, that was one of their favourite foods. And Peloponnese Greeks, like in the south, in particular the Spartans, love pork. Absolutely love pork. And my genetics are primarily from that region of the world, and I love pork. Yes. Oops. Damn fucking StreamYard. God almighty. Still rotating rapidly. I do have a very informative video that's going to be coming up soon, so you'll find it interesting. Are there any benefits or harms taking high doses? I wouldn't take vitamin C. If you're on an ancestral diet, you don't need vitamin C. Only people on a high carbohydrate diet need vitamin C. When you're on a low carbohydrate diet, your vitamin C and vitamin E requirements go down because you recycle them. Glutathione is upregulated, which is an electron donor. It recycles them, so keeps them. So you need far less. That's why carnivores, keto people, blah blah blah. Look, he's got another one. Need far less. So no, otherwise, unless you want oxalates and more oxalates running through your kidneys, I would not. And if you're consuming high carbs, why the fuck are you? Oops. Consuming animals' mammary secretions is dumb and disgusting. Joke's on you. I'm into that shit. Exactly. Actually, he'll be a pile of shit much earlier than me. Rotting away. And yeah. You don't need it. The reason all animals that don't produce endogenous vitamin C, actually, what they do is they produce uric acid and LP-A, which is what protects your endothelial cells and other areas. So animals that don't produce vitamin C use uric acid and LP-A for repair purposes. Simple as that. And uric acid is the antioxidant, which is far more potent than vitamin C. So it's only when it gets dysregulated due to fructose. So if you're one of those honey guzzling carnivores, then you may have problems. So yes, do not consume honey. Highly glycating and problematic in a whole lot of other ways. Let me just give you an example. Honey can be as high as 200 parts per million in deuterium. Okay? So raw sugar is 155 parts. Seed oils, those toxic, beautiful oils, are 255%, 55 parts per million. So 200, it's pretty high, isn't it? Somewhere in between toxic seed oils and refined sugar. That's where honey is. So should you be putting something in there in your mouth that could be potentially damaging? I don't know whether you are, hope not. It could be potentially damaging your nanomotors. Hopefully not. Only people on high carbohydrate, sad diets should be on high doses of vitamin C. Everybody else should be avoiding that stuff and allowing the upregulation of glutathione to recycle all these important vitamins or antioxidants. So yes. The context of a dry fast and body burning fat cells for the sole purpose of extracting water. What happens to the fat your body already has all the energy it needs? I'm sort of not with you there. Once insulin drops and glucagon goes up, you'll be basically releasing a lot of, fats out of your fat cells, and they will be going to be used as energy. And when they go through those enzymatic pathways, they will also produce a lot of water, metabolic water as it's called. And they produce about 10% more per single unit. So if you're looking at in grams, 1 gram of fat will produce 1.1 grams of water, or 1.1 mil of water, okay, in the metric system. So you get 10%. Where if you take a sugar in, you will basically only extract 0.44 for every gram. So you will basically be in a water deficit of 0.56, of more than half. That's why sugar dehydrates. And that's another reason why the strong water retention and blood pressure when you're consuming a high sugar diet. So, yeah. So basically, your cells are going to release based on your genetics, based on your muscle size, based on your energetics, your activity, so many different factors. It's not a specific amount. It's demand driven. The only time is you could actually biohack your body in such a way to stop the actual export. Let's say you took a pharmaceutical that actually prevented the export of fat. Let's say you took a high dose of resveratrol. Resveratrol inhibits lipolysis in large amounts. So does niacin. If you're in those, like I always say, less than 300, never go over 1,000 or 1 gram. So if you're in the lower parts, less of an issue. But if you're inhibiting, then you'll basically start wasting away your muscles very rapidly. So, and then creating all sorts of things. That's just, to give you an idea, because people do a lot of things and they end up getting certain strange effects and they go, oh, what the fuck happened? Well, you're inhibiting something, you're doing something, you're dysregulating your biochemistry in a certain way. So, yeah, really important. If you're going to do fasting, do it clean. Don't take any fucking supplements other than salt. Simple as that. And then the body will determine how much fat will be burnt and released. Not for me to determine that. Your genetics will determine that. I'm not sure what you need to be explained. Oops. Can you describe what is the ideal diet for us Brits? I would say a heavy animal-based diet would be. I'd also say that you probably need organ meats and you probably need cod liver as well, because your carotenoid capacity is very low. A lot of Brits also have issues with the other pathway, the choline pathway as well. So you need to be consuming more choline-rich foods like eggs and liver. That would be the main things. I think the biggest and B vitamins are very important. And a lot of Brits have probably been consuming too many carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates that burn through a lot of the B vitamins. Also, they've probably stuffed up their gut microbiome, which also affects B vitamin, and yeah, those are the things that people need to take out. Eating an animal-based diet will restore a microbiome that supports B vitamins, and it also will be a microbiome that actually improves just the general sort of signaling pathways in the body as well. So yeah, that's why those sort of foods that are rich in B vitamins and fat soluble vitamins are so important. You guys are very dependent on those animal foods, even more than the Mediterranean people. I mean, we have, I've got a 32% reduction, but many people in the British Isles have got really 80, 90, really high levels of reductions in carotenoid conversion. This is why a lot of you see far more dropouts amongst vegetarians and vegans in the British Isles than you actually, and people with a British Isles ancestry than you do see in other parts of the world where vegetarianism is more pronounced and much longer, and people have certain genetics where they can extract certain nutrients out of plants much more effectively. So because they've been exposed to them for far longer, a bit like the Chinese with choline and and a few other things. So these are the sort of factors at play. So I would say, yeah, if you want to be healthy as a Brit, you really need to focus on those sort of animal-based products far more. You guys also tend to have higher lactose persistency, not as high as the Irish, unless you come from from I think the Welsh. I think the Welsh do have much higher lactose persistency. But I can't remember. There are different parts of Wales which have different levels, but it's been a long time since I've looked into it. Yeah, so it can vary, but you guys are really based. Your diet has to be based on animal foods far more than anything else to really get your health. I don't think most Brits are suited for most of the plants, and most plants are stuff that have been brought in from the Americas, like the, tomatoes and potatoes and all these sort of things. Things that have been brought in. There's a whole lot of alkalines and a whole lot of different types of tannins and things in these things that you guys just are not adapted to. The more you consume these things, more problems you have. Most Brits tend to also have salicylate issues, I've actually found. So you don't really do well with two things. One, your diet tends to be a diet that doesn't have as much medium chain triglycerides. So when you do actually consume higher amounts of medium chain triglycerides, you also tend to get higher allergies than other people. And also salicylates doesn't really go down well as well, which basically means that things like palm oil and coconut oil should really not be in the diet of the British either. Where the Southern Europeans are, we've had foods that are high in salicylates for thousands of years. So we don't. It's very rare. It's only in parts of northern Italy where you find some salicylate because of Germanic genes that you find some salicylate issues, but most of the rest of the Mediterranean, not an issue. So it's a more of Northern European thing. So the funny thing is most of the people in Northern Europe are the ones that are actually consuming in Europe most of the tropical oils. And I go, it's just, modern day, nonsense. The problem is vegans, vegetarians, paleo people, people on keto, low carb are consuming a lot of high salicylate, high medium chain triglyceride type foods and getting certain reactivity and blame their past, this and that, and are not looking at these foods that were never part of your diet. So, definitely keep away from all that sort of stuff. Things that didn't grow in Britain should not be going in your mouth. Simple as that. The tea club, the tea club, I allocate the numbers, and don't you forget it. You could get demoted into a T0. Aren't they? God, I think Kitty's been on the trolling expedition against T1 and T2 for a while. She's having a ball of a time, and we're enjoying it. Can you give a quick summary dose of these if you start to get COVID symptoms? Just one. Make sure the tonic water, if you're going to take tonic water, it doesn't have any citric acid in it. If it does, it's useless. And basically you would take 4 of the lozenges because they come in 3 milligrams. So you take 4 of those, and you would space them. But I try to remember how many hours did I actually say last time. I think I said about 3 hours spacing in between. So take one, then 3 hours later you take another one, 3 hours later you take another one, 3 hours later you take another one. As far as the quinine goes, you only have to take it once in the day. With the first one, it's just the zinc. I sort of wanted them broken down, so you're not getting a big dose. What I'm trying to do is make sure you're not putting too much in this area. We want to slow down the replication, but we don't want to get too much zinc with an ionophore going into too many cells further down, which could disrupt your other functions, if you know what I'm getting at. So that's the reason my thinking is to basically space it out in that way. So you take the ionophore in the beginning, and then, so it's in the system, and then you basically take the zinc every 3 hours. So 4 of them per day in the first week. It's pretty much that. After a week, it's really that's to slow things down, the replication. The vitamin D is the thing that's going to basically deal with this problem. So that's where you want to up the dosage. You think if you've got it, 50,000 IUs, and I'm not kidding, 50,000 IUs for 3 to 4, maybe even 5 days. But depending on how old, comorbidities, what you've got, issues and health issues and stuff like that. So yeah, anywhere, and then drop it down to 25, and do that for at least anywhere between a week to 2 weeks. And if symptoms are still, keep the vitamin, keep basically at least taking a bit of zinc now and then, even after the initial week, still take a bit of zinc. Don't go crazy on it. You probably don't need as much because in that regard, because then vitamin D should be starting to come into its game and starting. But the key thing is, because you're not getting, the Spanish study was based on people getting the active form. It can take in people anywhere to get enough active form, anywhere between, 1.5 to possibly up to 3 weeks for people to get up to their level. So if you're in winter and you're not out in the sun, at least at a minimum, 5,000 IUs every day. And if you've got a bit of weight, a bit overweight, I'll even go up to 10,000 IUs every day, just to keep the levels up. Because what you want to do is you want to then step up and enhance those levels. But if you're very low from the beginning, I can tell you, you'll become very sick before enough of that vitamin D gets converted from 25 to 125 to gets converted in the actual kidneys. Do you have kidney issues? That's another issue. The problem is it's very hard to get the active form. There are some pharmaceutical companies that do provide the active form to hospitals in Europe. But in your country or where you're located, I've got no fucking idea. So, yeah. So I'm basically just out in the sun continuously and keeping my vitamin D levels up. That's my focus. There's a whole lot of different ways people can do it. People can actually go to sunbeds, stuff like that. There are a number of ways. Going to tanning beds is not a bad option as well. I mean, you have to think about it. I mean, I have some issues with tanning beds on a whole lot of fronts. It's not only EMFs, some of the actual light sources, they're not balanced properly like normal light is from the sun. So there are issues there. But if you're only doing it for COVID, who cares? It's not as if you're doing it on a regular basis. So it may be something you want to do for a period of time just to build up your vitamin D levels in a slightly more natural way. So yeah, there's all sorts of options that are available for people. But if you're really deficient, and you have to really check, go and check, ask the doctor to do a check. And if, your levels are really low, then maybe do a period of time of, a couple of days of 50,000 IUs, for a whole week, maybe 2 weeks, get your levels really high. And then basically say, oh, okay, then I'll drop down to sort of normal maintenance levels, because a lot of that gets stored and then you will slowly lose it over time. That's why, you built up over the summer periods, you still got outdoors, even in winter, so you got a bit, and you would slowly lose it over the winter months. That's why we're more susceptible to respiratory infections and stuff like that. But so vitamin D is really important. It's important for a lot of things, neurological things. It's so important. I mean, a guy that at work, he actually turned around to one of my, to the guy that organised the event on Friday and said, look, Harry said, I need to take this dose for my depression, and it would all, and he said, I don't get angry now. I don't get frustrated. I'm so calm, it's fixed my depression. Vitamin D is really important for, for all these things. So what can I say? But, remember, you also need retinol in there, and you also need MK4 as well. They all work synergistically, and there is a bit of competition between retinol and vitamin D, but it's probably less of a problem for us carnies because we do get quite a bit of animal fats in our diet. So that plays a big role. Anyway, go and check my past videos, live streams, and you will find links to the vitamin. So type of vitamins are that you want to be taking is either ones with MCT oil in them, coconut oil, palm oil, or extra virgin olive oil. You do not want to be taking any of the others, which are seed oils. Okay? So that's basically it. There are also liposomal forms as well, which can help if you're dealing with a deficiency and you've got a gut malabsorption issue or whatever. Liposomals are the other thing. iHerb do have liposomals, so so they get past the gut issue and get into the bloodstream in a small type of phospholipid, so encapsulation, and they get through, which is really good. And from memory, they're about 20 nanometers, so they're very tiny, very small, so they really can get through very easily. Anything which is above 80, 150, forget it, it's useless. Anything you find a liposome that's over 100 or 150 odd, forget it, it's a waste of time. Anything over 80, it's going to be problematic. You're not going to get the full amount in to your. Anything below that, especially 50, around 50 is really good and below. This one, the one that's on iHerb, the liposomal, which is a what is it called? Oh, for fuck's sake, I can't remember it. That's the one, Aurora Nutrascience. And in that, let me just share that. That's it there. So that's a liposomal, and I've actually contacted the company. It's 20 nanometers. So if you've got a gut issue or, any of those sort of things, problems, yes. Raw milk court challenge update on the 3rd of the 20. Provide an update of court hearing and her character challenge was conducted too. Okay. Eliza Van der Hurt. No, and wasn't even aware of it. On raw milk, there was a court challenge. Well, we'll see what happens. Raw milk's been demonized for far too long. Okay, so we won't. So it'll be a bit of time before we find out what happened. Yes. Jared will be happy if he can actually get it without having to cross the borders. Parmesan is me, family favorite cheese. Okay. Many Italians love Parmesan as well. Yes. The other one has the acidophilus. That's why it's addictive, kitty. That's why. Yes, the supermarket stuff has got. Yes, you start with 1 or 2 spoonfuls and you can't stop. What's the benefit effects of UVA? Are there any? Yep, deuterium depletion. It does help. So, and it's important again, in terms of sort of signaling as well for circadian rhythms, where UVB plays a bigger role in terms of, melanin and stuff like that, and vitamin D and stuff like that. UVA has important influences because it actually changes. The UVB actually either increases or decreases. There's like a ratio between the two, and as you get more UVA, like in the morning, there is a more red shift, in that early part, and it actually decreases, and then blue light increases, and then in the later, blue light decreases, and this near infrared, the UVA, which is that orangey, it's sort of in that sort of band, and then it sort of moved from there to the near infrared in the evening when UVA is no longer around, which is the dominant in the morning, and that really actually helps for circadian signaling, to tell you this is morning, this is night. So yeah. Yes. And melatonin will love you for it, for the signaling, that is. What is the best to get into and stay in ketosis? Fat in the absence of carbs, removal of carbs without increasing fat, or fasting. If you really want to go really fast, the fastest way to get into ketosis is to fast for 24 hours and to fucking do shitloads of exercise to deplete your glycogen stores out of your liver and your muscles. Basically, when I want to get into ketosis, that's what I do. It's like I sometimes can get into 16 hours. I will do basically a lot of like high intensity cardio, weightlifting, literally a couple of runs, a couple of long walks, and in a fasted state. And I can tell you, when I go back and then check my ketones, yeah, and my blood sugar levels, yep. So that's the fastest way to basically get into ketosis. In that, within the 24 hour, you can really push yourself really fast. And the next day you're in, and it, you can feel it. Oh, I got energy. Yeah. I won't do the Stephanie thing, but you know what I mean. She does it better. No, don't do this to me. checking one thing. StreamYard hasn't been too bad today. Yeah. Well, yeah. Depends how low you some people can still be in keto. Some people can still be in keto even though they're consuming slightly more carbs than others. And so there is one thing, the clearance rate, which is genetic, and the other thing is the glycogen store. So usually the liver, the size of the liver isn't going to be very much different between humans. It's going to be a slightly different in size, bigger person, but not radically big. So you've got a certain amount of glycogen stores in there, around about, we'll talk about roughly 100, plus grams of sugar. But the big stores, are in your muscles. You can, if you've got big bulging muscles, you can store quite a lot of glycogen. So the capacity to take up more sugar and still be in ketosis or low-grade ketosis, if you're a big muscular person. So, or you can be a very thin person and have very little muscle on you and find it very hard to get into ketosis. So, or be very fat and have very little muscle and find it very, because of your inactivity, finding it very hard to get into that state. But eventually you will, if you can remove the carbs in that regard. You have to go to zero carbs on those circumstances. But somebody can be muscular and overweight, and if they're very muscular, they can still be in a low-grade ketosis even if they're taking a few carbs, like 50 grams of carbs or whatever. So it all depends on your physiology, your genes, people's circumstances, size, muscle size, storage, glycogen storage, capacity, those sort of things. Anyway, Germans tend to eat lots of sugar today. Yes, they do. Those pretzels, sugar in, yeah, look, I know. It's most people around the world, the French with their breads and baguettes and, beer, wheat, gluten, cheese, sweets. Yeah, everybody's pretty much the same. Pretty much a lot of people are like that along the, everywhere. Greece, same thing. I do have some good news. The lady that I actually remember, I did the Mary that I did a review on her Blue Zone thing. We're actually going to have a chat together. So, and so basically it will be the week after, because she's got a couple of things at the moment on. So it won't be this week, it'll be the following week. So it'll be closer to Christmas sort of thing. And, we'll see how that goes. It should go well. She'll be able to provide us with more insights about those differences between those people living in the lowlands that most tourists see, the people living in the highlands that other people don't see. Give us a bit of about her own experiences and knowledge about the research and stuff like that, which is really important. She's got a lot of insights, how it was done, conducted, all the issues related to it. So we'll be able to have a better understanding, so yeah. So that's, today's diets are not what they used to be, let's put it that way. And that's why people are getting sick everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Yeah, not a bad strategy. I try to stick to a 6 or 8. Oops. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Yeah. There used to be a yogurt down here. that it was actually locally produced and it didn't have any acidophilus. Really nice. It was a bit more on the tart side, more traditional, the way yogurts used to be. So, you'd have a bit, but today's they just fill them up with acidophilus and make you extremely hungry because those little buggers go, I want more, I want more. They love sugar. I want more, I want more. Yes. Acidophilus basically loves sugar. It's a sugar-loving bacteria. And it will increase your appetite as it proliferates, especially in people who have got very poor guts and don't have, the sort of bacterial colonies that can balance out a lot of these bacteria, like Reuteria rhamnosus and stuff like that, or the bifidobacteria, they're very low in those because they are very important also. And animal products are the ones that increase the bifidobacteria, especially meats and stuff like that. So if you're lower in them, which most people are on a standard shit diet, they also tend to have higher the Firmicutes and others that dominate that actually tend to encourage more carbohydrate consumption. So yes, those little buggers through the vagus nerve are basically telling the brain, I want more, I want more. Little pests that they are. Addictive little arseholes. Yes, they are in the arsehole, aren't they? Yes. You probably need a bit. Grow those wings. Exactly. Yep, exactly. That is why it's really important for nitric oxide synthesis to actually get exposed to UVA. I forgot about that one. Thank you for reminding me. That's one that Jack Cruz brings up quite a bit as well, about the vasodilation in the morning. Yeah. It's the other thing that also Bart does as well. He goes out and tries to get out for that early part as well, or late in the evenings as well, for the same thing, because he earths himself. He tries to earth himself more now and then. And yeah, that's the other part. I always forget about the high blood pressure. Bart always makes a big issue about it. Anyway, yes, exactly. But in a sense, if you think about it, let's say you've got a child who's very fucking lean and you want to fatten them up, you want to put a bit of weight on them. That's a biohack, So potentially, as long as you don't overdo it and fatten them up too much. Nothing like the NAWST company. Yes. Yes, look, a lot of them sometimes have only the UVB, and sometimes they have it too high as well. So you've got to actually get some information on them, the way they do it. The other thing is, if you've got too many, let's say you've come off a sad diet at the time, I don't know when you actually went to the tanning bed, and you've got a lot of these damaged PUFAs incorporated into your tissue, you'll be more vulnerable to burning. That's the other problem. Yeah, and that's exactly, I was just going to say that. Yeah, precisely. With the lamps, the UVB lamps. Yeah, that's the other problem with those. I've heard a lot of people that have had issues with getting burnt with those and stuff like that. Again, because the lack of the UVA, you got to have the, at least at a minimum, UVB and UVA. One is at the surface and one is deeper in, which also has a hermetic effect and actually causes that vasodilation. But also the hermetic effect also increases the sort of production of intracellular antioxidants there to protect from the burning. So that's another thing that UVA does, because it penetrates deeper into the skin. From experience, in a few days, feel like eating, possibly because diet is always somewhat animal rich. Yep. Yeah. Look, when you're eating nutrient dense foods, you don't, you get the nutrients. Your body goes, oh, I've had my vitamins, I've had my minerals, I've had my protein I need. I'm not as physically active in these days, or, you'll know if you want more, it'll tell you that you want more. Yeah, exactly. Best way to be. Yep, they are. Like the rest of them. Yep, exactly. That's where I would use it as a biohack for, if you've got a daughter or a child that's basically, for whatever reason, because of the other kids, or the, it's sort of slightly bulimic, or, or have got issues with that, it could be useful. Yeah. As biohacks. That is not medical advice. That is just basically a biohack that you do at your own risk. But it could save lives. But there is no proof for that, and it's not medical advice that it could save lives. So, and it's not recommended for bulimic people, but it could help. Have I covered myself with YouTube? with the AI lock and load? God almighty. I feel like I'm in a Terminator a movie. I gotta protect myself from the AI before it gets me. Some beds give 4 blast 3 times more normal range of UVC, yes, which is very damaging. Exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing with sunbeds. Yeah, that's why you have to find out about them, the information, and they have to be appropriate. There are some good manufacturers out there, but yeah, it's a bit of a hit and miss, which is unfortunate. Yeah, there is a damn site somewhere where it actually does reviews on tanning beds, the commercial ones, and it actually has a rating, but I can't remember the website. So if I find it, I will post it tonight or next week, one of the two, when I do find it. And then what you can do is you can ask them what sort of bed they use when you go there. You can call around and go to the better ones. Yeah, we all love Nursey. But those other sick puppies, their mind is very dirty. Hey, Dom, I expected that from the trolls. Oh, God. They are really bringing down the neighborhood. Oh, God, I'm not going to get into that at all. Oops. Misclick. God. Yeah. Fat fingers. Well, at least you guys can see the light side of. I had to literally go through and unclick them. I left the rest for Lukey. I think there was one or two left. Yeah, I think he covered that eventually. We got the laugh. Yeah, shit does happen. Can't you do that to the trolls? Like these two. uh, I'm running through all these. G'day, Tom. Oops. Oh, shit. StreamYard. Moved again. Where am I? Lost my spot. Here I am. Oh, no. Oh, not again. Shit. What? Oh, God. Yeah, anything below Tom, I actually lost all those questions. StreamYard decided to go, yes. Anyway, good to see you, Tom. So if I missed any or I lost any questions, yes, blame StreamYard for it. Yes, very beneficial, Salt. Yes, very beneficial. Very important. 3 nutrients that make sure that you never lose your muscles and never lose your bones. Phosphorus, protein, and salt. Yes, I should do the video on that study and actually explain it thoroughly, so you guys understand, and then you can understand why people osteoporosis, sarcopenia, all these modern issues that we have today are due to us avoiding these foods. Again, because of idiotic advice. Lamb, mutton, yep. Blood sausage, liver, kidney, yep. Most Europeans consume this, even the Greeks. They just had a few more plants compared to the Northern Europeans. But yeah, even in Greece back in the 70s, 80s when I was there, just wall-to-wall organ meats and stuff like that. So, exactly, an aged lamb, which is mutton, older, more fattier. Yep. High magnesium water tastes really good to me, as does salted water. Be very careful you don't get electrolyte imbalances. You're secreting a certain amount and your body can get the stuff, so don't go too crazy. Many cases I find that it's usually salt that actually fixes the issue. Many people sometimes come to me and they go, I've taken magnesium. Should I take more? And I go, no. Are you getting enough salt? Yes. Remember, magnesium is actually involved in a lot of like energy production and a whole lot of other biological processes. While it helps with your muscles to function, the energy of the muscles and all that. Remember the electrical, it needs sodium. So, those little wires, which we call, your nervous system is twitchy. Maybe it doesn't have enough salt. Yes. I just tend to, occasionally I'll put a bit of salt. Occasionally if there's, like, I'm dehydrating and it's a very warm day and stuff like that, yep. I don't really consume a lot of water. It's primarily what I get from my coffee, milk, stuff like that. I mostly try to hydrate from fat. And my antidiuretic hormones are pretty much well upregulated. So I don't really, I'll go in the morning, then I'll go probably midday, and then in the evening, it's about it. Sometimes I may go 4 times a day to the toilet to urinate. Sometimes I've had days where I've only gone twice. So depends how much coffee I've consumed as well. So other factors. And yes, my urine is normal. Actually, sometimes I'm concerned that it's a bit too light. It's probably when too much coffee and stuff like that. On occasionally, when I drink a bit more, when I've gone out for long walks and I've sweated and drank a bit more water, and it's becoming, I go, Because if you look at in nature, animals, their urine is yellowish. You're supposed to hydrate with fat. You're not supposed to be hydrating with water constantly. Animals occasionally get some water. They go to riverbeds where there's also salt and water. They're not constantly drinking. It's not the natural thing. So I tend to dry salt, which is like put more on meats, like people used to before refrigeration. They used to pack on the salt. So, and if you've basically been salting for for a couple of days, and you go, I'll literally scrape it off because maybe I've had too much. But then again, I hardly ever get that. I've probably had that twice in my life, that experience where I've said, I think I've had too much. I tend to be a person that needs more salt as well. So there are some genetics with some people as well. So most people are in the middle. Some people need very little, and other people need very a lot, because they lose more. I tend to sweat very easily, so I lose a lot more compared to other people. It's probably because of my hypothermia genes that I tend to basically sweat much more, build up internal temperature when I walk far more. That's why in winter I can go out with my shorts and stuff like that. So, yes. So my requirements are much higher in salt. Yeah, that's the thing. that's the downside. That is why for you need to get fine. So you can actually I actually get sea salt, which is fine. I've got 2 types. I get fine sea salt, which is really fine, and it's the same product. One is coarse, which I use on my meats, and one is really fine. So that's the only difference for the water, which I occasionally use. And I get a smaller quantity of that anyway. Exactly. Oh, dearie me. Yes, yes. Yeah, that is very much true, Shell. Yes, I have to agree. See you, Tracy. And we are at the 3 hour mark, which basically means I'm about to finish the show. Yep, it's pretty good. I'm going to rapidly go through these. Gradually. MK4, that's all you need, dear. MK4. MK7, for a third of the population, doesn't even get converted. The animal form that all the cells use is MK4. MK1 goes into the liver, and MK4 goes to all peripheral tissue. So MK7 and all the other menaquinones have to be all do a few things, like with osteocalcin and carboxylation. You know, the actual proteins that are involved in the calcium sort of, you know, the proteins that are involved in activating them for the calcium deposition into the bones. But at the end of the day, they do very little else. A lot of the others, they get excreted or converted. And MK7 is very poorly converted in a third of the population, and the rest at different levels. That's why it stays in the bloodstream for so long. Not a good thing, because under certain circumstances, it can become a pro-oxidant. Bad idea. MK4 gets sucked away so rapidly. And when you see that study that I actually will show, you'll see how rapidly into what percentage, we're talking about how many fold, you'll be shocked, So it goes back to the argument why it doesn't stay resident so long in the bloodstream, because it gets uptaken by the cells so rapidly, they love it. Give us more MK4. They're screaming and competing between themselves who will get more. And yes, very important for the body in that regard. I mean, just for your liver, biosynthesis, MK4, a whole lot of other neurological stuff, MK4, the heart, MK4, decalcification of soft tissue, especially for the heart, MK4. MK7 won't do it, but MK4 will. It's got a different hook on it, which can actually move those sort of softer calcium deposits. MK4 is the magic animal form. We've just been conned because everybody's using soya-based products of MK7, because that's what all the businesses out there, supplement companies, can make shitloads of money on. Simple. So yes, don't waste your money on that shit. Yeah, look, you can. Some people do. I don't bother. I get enough potassium in my diet from dairy. He doesn't consume dairy. Remember, he's got a lactose intolerant, so that's why I suspect he does. But I get more potassium than I need based on my excretion rate. So I excrete, the level that I excrete compared to the level that I get is far more. So there's not an issue. I get more magnesium that I excrete, more than double the magnesium that I excrete. And, I can't remember, was 20, 30% more of the potassium that I excrete. So I don't need it. I just need salt to keep it all homeostatically in. So yes, not an issue. But if he needs it because he's lactose intolerant, doesn't get enough from his diet, that's a different issue altogether. So some people use the option of that don't use dairy, but they basically use avocados. Stephanie, so different people use different approaches. We're not religious on this point, and she probably gets a bit of magnesium as well from the good levels of potassium and good levels of magnesium from avocados. But there are a few anti-nutrients in there. There are a few other issues, so There are certain types of fats which everybody touts as being very important, but there can be issues. I will show some Italian stuff that talks about proliferation of cells. So very interesting stuff. So people need to be, that's why I say ancestral. When you stick to ancestral, things are properly balanced. When people start supplementing all these fatty acids or this or that or whatever, you're pushing pathways you may not want to be pushing. It's not that these things are bad, but when you overload the system with anything, you're gonna get unexpected consequences. Let's put it that way. Yep. Helps, but not in yogurt. Fair enough. Yep. Look, some people it does, especially when certain the gut microbiome hasn't got some of the other. That will be coming in a future video. How to restore some of that back. And yes. Quinine for the clearance of senescence does help a bit in terms of a hormetic effect, but let me put it there. Both do help a bit, and they also do help a bit, especially fisetin. It does help a bit with even the mitochondria. But as I said, there are certain pathways like the CD38 pathway that actually reduces some of the redox states potential in the mitochondria that are probably more important. Niacin is probably more important in suppressing that pathway to get more bang for your buck, so to speak. And then these two can help, but they're actually playing an auxiliary role rather than a primary role that niacin does. But you don't want to go too high as well on niacin. Remember, stick to below 300, and I stick to about anywhere between 100 odd or 200 odd, more or less. Anyway, I should be stopping this. I'm just gonna really just go through. Anyway, I'm gonna have to leave. We're actually a bit over. This is where I'm gonna stop, guys. I'll go right to the end. I know I've probably missed some questions, so be it. LOL. Yeah, I have to wrap it up. I do have the night program as well that's coming up. Yes. You think he would look more attractive as a parrot? This is T2. I don't think anything could actually improve him. Yeah, so basically, guys, look, love yous. I have to leave yous. Got a few other things that I have to do. And we will get back to this next week with the North American crowd. Those who are within the Australasian area, I'll probably see you tonight. Some of you, maybe all of you, I don't know. In that regard, we'll see. And yeah, basically, got a few things to get through. So we'll do another 3-hour session tonight between 6 and 9 Australian Eastern Standard Time. So I hope some of you can turn up. That's about, 4.5 hours from now, pretty much. Some of you may be asleep. You can always watch it tomorrow. Anyway, gonna let you go. Take care. Thanks for being here. If I've missed a question, and you're desperate for an answer, you can't wait until next week, put in the comments area. I will get to it, if not today, at least tomorrow. So you'll get a reply. It's just faster. Don't email because I've been a bit slow on the emails recently because I'm trying to get enough time to do other things. So just put a comment in and I'll answer it. I usually answer the comments pretty fast. It's usually not a long answer. It's a quick and dirty type, but yeah. Anyway, see you guys. Hopefully many of you tonight. Take care. North American crowd, thanks for being here. I will see you guys next week, and hopefully through the week with a few other little videos here or there covering a few different areas. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. See you. Take care. And I'm out of here. Bye.